And when the crowd heard it, they were astonished at his authority. Matthew 22:33. Why were they astonished at his authority? Because he had actually earned it, and he wasn't basing his authority on previous authorities. The Sadducees and the Pharisees, the chief priests, the teachers, the scribes, majorly, the majority of them based all of their stuff and all of their teaching on previous written authorities. However, he had earned the authority to teach, so they were astonished at the level of earned authority he had. Then he moved on forward after this, verse 34. But when the Pharisees heard he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, an expert in the Torah, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, what is the great command in the law? The great commandment. And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, and all of your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Which is, if I remember correctly, Leviticus 19, somewhere between 16 through 19. I think it's Leviticus 19:18, if I remember correctly. This is the first and greatest commandment. Second is like to it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and all the prophets. Now, if I'm looking over here to see my chain, yeah, it's 19:18. That is correct. Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question. So Jesus turns the tables and initiates dialogue with the Pharisees, saying, what do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he? They said to him, the son of David. He said to them, then how is it that David in the Spirit calls him Lord, calls the Son of Man Lord, saying, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. If David calls him Lord, then how is he David's son? And no one was able to answer him a word, nor from that day did anyone dare ask him any more questions. Jesus was flat out done with all of their junk and all of their blasphemy, because they were the ones speaking blasphemy. They were the ones violating Torah. He was the one who was living under Torah, living in holiness, and bringing the actual meaning of Torah out. Our responsibility is to get the cause and effect relationships, not ditch the entire law, to understand the principles and to walk in accordance with them. There are principles in the ceremonial law that are there for a reason, and we need to discern what the reason is in Genesis through Deuteronomy and apply. You'll note, I did not say leave grace and go back under the law. I did say there are universal, non-optional cause and effect relationships that will happen as a result of following the principles contained in the law. There's a reason for the prohibition against eating pork or rabbit. The Native Americans knew about rabbit. They had a proverb saying man could starve to death eating rabbit, because they knew that our body spends more calories digesting the rabbit than it actually derives from the meat of the rabbit. There's a reason the Lord said you may have these creatures and not these creatures. Having the issue. Somebody sold bats in a wet mart. Now we have coronavirus, if we indeed fact have coronavirus, or whatever the case. All this brouhaha because somebody said, oh, I'm gonna consume a bat, eat a bat, sell a bat, do a bat. The Lord said, don't eat bats. Hello? The Lord said, don't eat beetles. The Lord said, eat grasshoppers and locusts. They're perfectly fine. There's a reason. Especially when they didn't have refrigeration in those days. You have no idea what's crawling around inside of your stuff. You know, I am the Lord that healeth thee refers to preventative maintenance, because he said if you follow all these things and keep them, then you'll have none of the plagues that fell on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. His healing is great when it comes in miraculous power, whatever the case, but his healing is just as effective when we're walking in preventative maintenance and following principles, cause and effect relationships.
Preach.
And stuff is prevented because we live a healthy lifestyle. So many times we have to suffer with disease in our body because we were living a foolish lifestyle. If we try to survive on McDonald's alone, ultimately it will harm us. If we try to survive on pork alone, it will bring us to harm. The Lord designed us to have a diverse diet. He designed us to partake of many things, and He drew out principles, cause and effect relationships. We try to live our life eating lobster and shellfish and everything else that the Lord did not design us to eat in accordance with the principles. If we try to subsist on that, it will bring us to harm ultimately. Now, is it a salvation issue? No. But are there cause and effect relationships if we make a lifestyle out of eating rabbit, out of eating crustaceans, out of eating varmints, bats, whatever the case? Squirrel? Yeah. So, our responsibility is not necessarily to treat them as a salvation issue, but it is to treat the principle present as a cause-effect relationship that didn't lose its effect. Moses was an exhorter. He taught cause and effect. Jeremiah, Solomon were exhorters. They taught cause and effect. Paul was an exhorter. He taught cause and effect. Jesus was an exhorter. He taught cause and effect. Get the cause and effect. Get intimate and cozy with that. Don't treat it like a salvation issue. You're not going to go to hell for eating rabbit or pig or bacon or whatever else, you know. But there can be negative side effects if you try to make your lifestyle one of boink. The nitrites and the nitrates from the smoking process are dangerous. I think maybe the Lord knew something was happening, which is why He said, hey, clean meats only, these are the clean meats.
Plus, if you don't cook pork thoroughly, like many of the Israelites may not have, it can absolutely harm you.
Right. And if you have a garment made out of two fabrics, it can actually affect your respiratory system. A whole lot of studies have been done that deal with the mixing of those fabrics, the cotton poly blends, and respiratory system issues. We talk about alien human spirits, AHSs. We talk about divine, your essence needs to be your essence. If you have your essence and somebody else's essence in with you, that's not the way God designed it. He wants your essence to be your essence, and He's passionate about that, and you should be passionate about your essence being just your essence too. So when we do the admixture, it's what we call defilement. When we talk about unclean spirits, it's adding another something to you that is beyond and other than God's design for you. So, uncleanness is more than, oh, it's going to keep you from heaven, or, oh, it's going to make you dirty. It means you don't have that singleness of essence that God designed you to have. There is a, you need to be fully the you that God made you to be. Do you have anything to add to this, my dear?
Nope. I agree.
So, gang, I bless you to be passionate, to be zealous for your essence being only your essence. I bless you with the purpose and the design to do whatever it takes to walk in accordance with just your essence, not somebody else's essence, not somebody else's expectations. We talked about earlier, honor your father and mother. If they're trying to make your essence into the essence that they can approve of, that's not honoring them. Honoring them means you flow in accordance with your design as if they already knew, agreed with, celebrated, and approved of your design. Your job is to walk in your design. Jesus is very zealous for, very passionate about, willing to suffer for you to walk in a purity and singleness of essence. You should be too, and we bless you to have that pursuit, that radical pursuit of single, pure, untarnished, undefiled, untamped down, uncontrolled design. I bless you with that. Singleness of purpose, singleness of design. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, you are made to do a thing. You are made to be you, not you plus anything else. In the name of Yeshua. Amen.